So Friday free practice has been completed at the Mexico City Grand Prix. So let's have a look at it, guys. Let's review the action from the Mexican Grand Prix so far on Friday. Even though it's very late here on Friday, it's approaching 1 o'clock in the morning. It's only Saturday now, actually, in the UK. I'm here to cover this just as the event is finishing. So let's dive in. Let's see what were the main talking points from free practice 1 and free practice 2. The first thing that we noticed with free practice 1 was that there's a lot of different drivers taking part in this. Practice drivers, if you will, guys, we don't normally see in Formula 1. Pato O'Ward, the Mexican IndyCar star, was in the McLaren. Felipe Drugovich, the 2022 Formula 2 driver, champion I should say, was in the Aston Martin. Robert Schwartzman got a run out in the Sauber. Kimi Antonelli got another run out in the Mercedes. Ollie Behrman was in the Ferrari, which was all really good to see. But I tell you what, if Robert Schwartzman ever does make it to Formula 1 for a proper race seat, he will have a 5-place grid penalty. He ended up overtaking during a yellow flag area, and because of that, the Sauber driver, at the moment Sauber driver anyway, got a penalty for his troubles. So if he does make it to Formula 1, he will be an immediate disadvantage with that, unfortunately. But I don't think he'd be complaining if he got an F1 race seat, because to be quite frank, at this moment in time, it's looking pretty unlikely. But you never know, stranger things have happened. But yeah, a lot of inexperienced drivers taking part in this free practice 1 session, but it was one of the more experienced ones that ended up causing an issue. I think Alex Albon has just passed over 100 Grand Prix, and unfortunately none of that experience came in handy, as he ended up getting on the curbs during the Esses section, unsettling the car, and as a result he collected Ollie Behrman in the Ferrari, which wrecked both of their cars. Alex Albon, as a result, didn't really do any running for the remainder of the day. I don't think he was out at all in FP1 or FP2 after that incident. It was kind of sad for Ollie Behrman, really, but the main thing is that both drivers were okay in what was a pretty nasty crash. And the third thing that we learned is that we saw a repeat of it, really, in a sense, in FP2, and this is something that really would have annoyed Pirelli, no doubt. And Mario Asola, man, I love you, you're such a good guy, you know. We've had a lot of conversations over the years, but I could tell he was very much putting on a brave face during the Sky Sports broadcast, because the 1.5 hour extended session was actually relatively cut short in a sense, because around half an hour of that time was spent repairing the barriers after a really nasty crash to George Russell. Now, I would say thankfully he's okay, but I think he actually got really hurt with that one. He was definitely winded by it. Again, it was a similar incident to Alex Albon, but instead of collecting a car out on the track, he just went straight into the barriers. Martin Brundle on the Sky broadcast was actually very near that corner when it happened, and he said that George Russell narrowly missed a section of the track where there was no Tech Pro barrier. So had he lost the car a little earlier, Russell would have been hitting a concrete wall effectively, which would have been even worse. I'm just watching the Sky broadcast now in the corner of my eye, and I can see George Russell walking around in the Mercedes garage. He didn't run for the rest of the session, but he's clearly indicating that he did hurt his ribs during that. And of course, Russell had a nasty crash in qualifying for the United States Grand Prix as well. So, two big impacts for him in less than 2 weeks, effectively. And because of that as well, it really shows that Mercedes car is continuing to be very unstable, very unpredictable. Yes, it's a difficult track, Mexico. We've already covered that on the F1 Chronicle.com. Look at the video where I go over why Mexico is such a difficult circuit, why altitude is such a big factor in how these cars perform on the track. So yeah, the main thing is that he's relatively okay. I mean, he's not badly hurt. He went to the medical centre and got treated for whatever he needed to, but looks like he's going to be competing for the rest of the weekend. But we've got Brazil coming up as well. If he has another crash, God forbid, we might see Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes a little earlier if that does happen, but I hope it doesn't, obviously. I hope he's okay and continues for the rest of the season without injury, of course. Now, yeah, physical injuries potentially for George Russell, but car problems, engine troubles for Max Verstappen. Now, we said I've said quite a few times actually, Max Verstappen relatively has this championship sewn up. As long as his car stays reliable, as long as he finishes the remaining 5 races of the season, I don't foresee any major issues for him. However, he really struggled during FP2. There was a persistent problem, something that wasn't apparent to me and you, but it was obviously showing up on the telemetry, and also Verstappen out on the track felt there was something wrong with the car. He was saying to his race engineer Giampiero Lambert several times that you know, the car doesn't feel right, this is not normal, this isn't right. And, you know, it was clearly backed up by the data they've seen on the Red Bull pit wall, because it was just not being what it should be. Max Verstappen barely getting anyone in FP2, and you know, this could be the sign of a potential engine penalty. Maybe not in this race, but in one further down the line. Which, yeah, Max Verstappen could of course cut himself through the field, but the car is not as good as what it was last year. For example, when he did that several times. So yeah, could be quite tricky for Max Verstappen. And yeah, limited running, like I said, a lot of red flags, a lot of tricky stuff, a lot of Pirelli tyre testing as well. It's very difficult to gauge actual pace of the cars, but I would say, going off of what we've seen so far, that Ferrari still look like a team to beat. McLaren look pretty quick, don't get me wrong, and Red Bull, we have not really seen enough from Verstappen to fully judge, but I would say Ferrari look the fastest, especially in FP2 anyway. Carlos Sainz top in the session and Charles Leclerc up in P4 as well. I would say, given the pace of that car in Austin, I think they're a safe bet to do very well this weekend. So if you do well in Austin, you usually do well in Mexico City as well. Different tracks, but they seem to suit the same kind of cars in its different ways, if you catch my drift with that. So yeah, there we go guys. Ferrari looking good, Red Bull looking unreliable, McLaren looking unremarkable relatively, but there's still a long way to go, and we'll find out a lot more during qualifying tomorrow. Of course, I'll be here to cover that as well. I think it ends at 11 PM UK time if everything goes to plan. Doesn't matter guys, I'm going to be here for it. I'll be up on Saturday night to cover that for you guys. So yeah, let us know your main standouts for practice today. I just love seeing the drivers that we don't normally see, you know, like the O'Wards and the Schwartzmans and the Antonellis and the Behrmans of the world. So yeah, that's my main highlight really. But yeah, main thing is that George Russell's okay, and I mean, I'm looking again. I'm watching. I've got the Sky broadcast in the corner of my eye. That Red Bull is pretty stripped down. There's a serious problem they're trying to solve on that Max Verstappen car, #1 car. So yeah, we'll see you soon for some more F1 content in the build-up to the Mexican Grand Prix, guys. Plenty of content already out on the channel as always, and we'll see you very soon, guys. Have a good one.